Hello and welcome to Morning Coffee, a new silly segment on this channel where I wake up and I write some bullshit that I feel like talking about. I just feel like writing something that's on my mind. I was talking to my buddy a few weekends ago, and he has always been adamantly against early access games. He's participated in a few early access games years ago. They put a sour taste in his mouth, and he's just never had a desire to touch anything labeled early access since then. And I get it, I completely get it. But it made me start to think. You know, a lot of enormous AAA, huge blockbusting $100 million plus video games are kind of in this, what I'd call, AAA early access. Sure, the meat and potatoes of the game are pretty well established, and compared to the typical early access games made by independent developers, they're super polished, but a lot of AAA games seem to endlessly be tinkered with, adding elements that were promised at launch but never delivered on, changing entire game mechanics because of either community outrage or bugs, or just a different vision, shifting the entire focus of DLC, creating entirely new narratives, and basically putting out what seems to be AAA early access games. One of the most atrocious examples of this in the past few years is No Man's Sky, published by Sony Interactive. It's almost been 2 years since No Man's Sky came out, and they're still patching, adding, changing, and catching up on what they promised was going to be in there at launch, and they did not deliver on. And there's nothing wrong with continuously adding and changing and patching content, but I just don't like being bullshitted. Destiny 2 has received a lot of harsh criticism for not living up to what was expected or promised, and they're constantly in the process of smoothing things over. And then there's Battlefront 2, which has certainly had a laundry list of issues resolved, or soon to be resolved post-launch. See, I don't see Battlefront 2's issue as being a case of false promises necessarily, but rather questionable decisions and a hyper-aware gaming community that has quickly turned against practices that the majority of gamers seem to despise from full-priced AAA titles. It's gotten to the point where if a AAA title is on my radar, I'm inclined to just kind of hold off and wait. I'm content waiting a year, 2 years, 3 years, even more, until everything is patched up, until everything is fully realized, brought to its full potential, until I can get it on eBay for like $10. I'm patient with just waiting for games in general, and I don't really feel the need to buy games at launch unless there's something I've been waiting for a long time, especially single-player games. And a lot of that patience has to do with kind of being sick of the AAA early access experience. But it really is the new norm, it seems. And I understand that video games are way more complicated nowadays than they were back when I used to blow into my Wave Race 64 cartridge. But goddamn, the only games I really find myself wanting to play at launch are multiplayer games, like The Division or Destiny, stuff like that. And those, it seems, are the types of games that are the biggest culprits of this AAA early access nonsense. The loot and shoot games, the games that often feel shallow yet addictive, the games that I find myself loving and hating at the same time for their simplicity, and at the same time loving it for their simplicity. I don't know. What am I even talking about? It's 5 in the morning and I need another cup of coffee. I just want a complete and polished exclusively multiplayer game from time to time. I understand it's a good thing to be able to patch constantly. These day one patches, these week one patches, I just kind of sit back and go, why didn't you just wait? Why didn't you just delay your game? You should have done what Valve did back in the day with Half-Life 2. Just delay the fuck out of it until you have a really good game on your hands. There's nothing wrong with delaying your game. I would much rather you delay your game than your game having a black eye at launch. That's all. Anyway, I hope Fallout 76 is good.